You know when you're reading Arabic and you come across a verb that looks kind of familiar, but it's been stretched out and ends with this really heavy N sound? Well, that's no typo. It's actually one of the most powerful tools in the language for adding emphasis. So let's dive right into this awesome feature, the nuns of emphasis, and totally demystify the spelling changes that come with them. Okay, so check this out. On the left, you've got your standard present tense verb, yafalu. He does. Simple, right? But look at the right. It transforms into la yafalanna, which means he will most certainly do. The meaning is just completely supercharged, and the spelling looks totally different. So how in the world do we get from point A to point B? That's exactly what we're going to break down. So what's making this all happen? Well, it's these two special suffixes called the nuns of emphasis. First up, you have the Noon Saqila, or you can think of it as the heavy nun. You'll always spot it by the Shaddah on top, and it adds strong emphasis. Then you've got its cousin, the Noon Khafifa, the light nun. It's marked with a Sukun and gives a more moderate, kind of lighter emphasis. For this explainer, we're mostly going to focus on the heavy one, the Noon Saqila, because you'll see it way more often. Now, I know this might look like a bunch of random, chaotic changes, but here's the secret. It's not random at all. It actually follows this really beautiful, logical, and totally predictable system. And once you get it, you can predict the change for any verb, because the whole thing is built around just 5 simple groups. And here they are. This is our roadmap for today. Every single present tense verb conjugation in the entire language falls into one of these 5 categories, all based on its ending. You've got the singulars ending in that short sound, the duals ending in ani, masculine plurals in una, feminine plurals in na, and finally that second person feminine singular ending in ina. So let's just tackle them one by one. All right, let's kick things off with the biggest group, the singulars. This covers pronouns like he, she, you for a guy, I, and we. And the rule for this one, it's super, super simple. When you add that emphatic noon, the final little vowel, the dhamma, just switches to a short a vowel, a fatha. Seriously, that's it. And you can see exactly what I mean right here. Yaf'ala becomes la yaf'alanna. Af'ala becomes la af'alanna. It's just a clean, simple vowel swap. This is by far the most common change you're going to see out there. Okay, let's move on to our second group and see how this builds. This one is for all the dual forms, the verbs for you too and they too. For this one, 2 little things happen. First, the original N at the very end of the word just gets dropped, gone. Second, the heavy noon that we're adding gets a kasra, that little I vowel sound underneath it. Let's see what that looks like. Yaf'alani loses its final ni. Then the heavy noon is tacked on with a kasra, which makes it sound like ni. So the final result is la yaf'alani. The key thing to notice is that the long ah sound that tells you it's a dual verb is still there, and that's a huge clue when you're trying to figure these out. All right, group 3, the masculine plurals for they and you all. Now this rule feels a little more drastic. Here, we actually drop 2 letters from the original verb, the waw that gives you the u sound and the final noon. The only clue you have left that this used to be a plural is that the letter right before all the deleted stuff keeps its dhamma, its u vowel. And just look at how much shorter the verb gets. Yaf'aluna has that whole una ending just chopped off. It becomes la yaf'alunna. But see that lam right before the end? It still has its dhamma on top. That little vowel is your only hint that this was originally a masculine plural verb. Now for something completely different. Group 4, the feminine plurals, is really special. You can think of these verbs as being grammatically fixed. They're kind of stubborn and they don't like to change. So when the emphatic nun shows up, nothing gets deleted. Instead, a little protective aleph is slid in between the original verb and the emphatic nun, just to keep them separated. This one is so unique. The original verb yaf'alna stays perfectly untouched. Then you just add that separator aleph and the emphatic noon with a kasra, and you end up with la yaf'alnani. Here's a pro tip. If you ever see that double n sound separated by an aleph, you can be almost positive you're looking at an emphasized feminine plural. And here we are at our final group, which has just one pronoun in it, you, singular feminine. The rule here is going to sound really familiar because it's almost exactly like the masculine plurals. We drop 2 letters. This time it's the ya, making the e sound, and the final nun. And to leave a little trace of the original form, the letter right before takes a kasra, that I vowel. You can see it right here. Taf'alina loses its ina ending and becomes lataf'alinna. Notice that the lam now has a kasra under it. That little vowel is your signal that this verb was originally for you, feminine singular. And just like that, we've done it. We've covered the entire system for the heavy noon. So, what about that other nun, the light one? Let's do a quick side-by-side. As we've seen, the Noon Saqila is for that strong emphasis, and it can attach to all 14 verb forms no problem. The Noon Khafifa, the light one, gives a more moderate emphasis. It's marked with a Sukun, and this is the key, it doesn't attach to all the verb forms. So the big takeaway for the light nun is really its limitations. It just won't attach to the dual verbs from group 2 or those stubborn feminine plural verbs from group 4. For all the other forms it does attach to, the spelling rules are exactly the same as the ones we just learned. And here's a final cool fact. In the special script of the Quran, you'll often see it written not with a sukun, but as a tanween, like in the example you see here. Pretty interesting, right? All right, theory's great, but let's actually put this to the test. Here's a word straight from the Quran, latadkhulunna. Based on the 5 rules we just went through, can you figure out which group this belongs to? What was its original form? Here's a hint. Take a close look at the vowel on the letter right before that emphatic noon. If you guessed group 3, you are absolutely right. That dhamma, that little oo sound on the lam, is our dead giveaway. It tells us the original verb had to be tadkhuluna, you all enter. The waw and noon were dropped just like the rule says, leaving us with latadkhuluna, you will most certainly enter. See, the system works perfectly. Okay, let's try one more. This one looks a little more complex. Yaf'al yasma'anni. What in the world is going on here? Look for that key structural feature we talked about. What's separating those 2 N sounds at the end? And what does that tell you about the original verb? That separator, aleph, is the total giveaway. This has to belong to our special group 4, the feminine plurals. The original verb, yasmarna, they hear, is still there, completely untouched. All we did was insert that aleph before the emphatic noon. It just shows how even a complicated-looking word is built on a very simple and logical foundation. And to see this in its full glory, let's look at that first example verb in its actual home, right in the context of the Quran. La tadkhulunna al-masjida al-haram, you will most certainly enter the sacred mosque. You see, the grammar isn't just some dry, boring rule. It's what infuses the verse with this incredible sense of certainty and divine promise. It elevates it from a simple statement to an absolute guarantee. So what we've seen is that something that looks like a really complex spelling change is actually a highly organized system, a system that's designed to inject these different levels of certainty and emphasis into the language. So my closing question for you is this. Now that you can decode this system, what new layers of subtlety, of power, and of promise are you going to discover in the text that you read?